These 5 men claimed they'd solve fuel forever, then each one disappeared in strange and unsettling ways. "Something is happening, keep me in your prayers, screen record this." That's what 21-year-old Julian Brown posted just days before vanishing from the internet. Julian, being a young inventor from Atlanta, Georgia, claimed that he had built a machine that could solve 2 of the world's biggest problems: plastic pollution and fossil fuel dependence at the same time. His invention, called Plastoline, uses a process known as microwave pyrolysis to break down plastic waste and convert it into usable fuels: gasoline, diesel, and even jet fuel. And he wasn't just talking about it either, he was welding it together in his own backyard, testing it and sharing it on social media. Turning plastic into fuel with reactors has been done before, however, I have been working to innovate utilizing microwaves to turn plastic into fuel. By early 2025, he had grown his Instagram account to over 1.8 million followers, was being interviewed by tech blogs, catching the attention of both skeptics and supporters. Pyrolysis has been around since the 70s, it's incredibly inefficient, hence why no one uses it. This man is extremely smart, protect him. And on April 11th, Julian would start a GoFundMe, which resulted in a healthy number of donations. Soon after that, he appeared on a Weather Channel show, where he revealed that Alexis Ohanian, co-founder of Reddit, had given him a $100,000 grant to help with his pyrolysis machine. Brown explained that he had hoped to attract larger funding to help scale his work, but as you're about to find out, this wasn't necessarily a good idea. Because on the 14th of June, everything shifted. Julian began posting stories about helicopters circling above, unmarked vehicles parked nearby, and hinted that someone was watching him day and night. The post also included footage where the chopper could be heard in the background, and in a separate post 11 days later on the 25th of June, he told his followers, "I know I'm not going to live long, and that's why I put every day, every hour, every minute into building, into growing." Adding, "I'm certainly under attack, I can't go into so much detail, keep your eyes open." And then nothing. His social media went silent and his followers started asking questions. Some feared he had been kidnapped, while others believed it was all staged for attention. You missing for a bit got a lot of people's attention. I hope it's enough that people will start to see there's a better way. You're a genius, and I hope you get to where you plan on going with this, ready to watch you change the world. In light of Julian's disappearance, his GoFundMe campaign he started in April of 2025 suddenly saw a surge in donations. The campaign quickly raised over $31,000, almost twice its original goal of $16,000. Though, police eventually issued a statement confirming that there were no open missing persons case for Julian. Then came the only public update, from someone who would know more than anybody else. Julian's mother shared the following with Daily Mail. "I can confirm Julian is safe, but in the best interest of his security, I'm not able to provide any more information." She told the Daily Mail that Julian wasn't missing, that he was alive and safe, but she couldn't say where he was or why he had completely gone offline. Julian would then return weeks later after explaining that his phone had been hacked. "You see, these hackers, they got into my iCloud and they were basically able to remotely watch and view my entire phone. I figured out they were in my phone, it kicked them out, and they had no more access to my phone, but they still had access to my Instagram somehow." Whether this was the truth behind his disappearance or not, Julian promised to turn plastic into fuel, then seemed to vanish into thin air before he could really prove anything at all. Although lucky to be alive, unlike Stanley Meyer, who was once quoted saying only 22 gallons of water to get from LA to New York. In the early 1990s, Stanley Meyer, an inventor from Grove City, Ohio, claimed he'd invented a car that didn't run on gasoline or even electricity, but on water. His invention was called the water fuel cell, and it supposedly worked by using low voltage electrolysis to split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen would power the car, while the oxygen would just be released into the air. No emissions and no fuel bills. He called it the end of the energy crisis. "We're talking about taking a little bit of water and driving a car. There is nothing that can compare to this." He patented the idea, demonstrated it on TV, and even showed a modified dune buggy driving around using nothing but regular water. The press ran with it, and the Pentagon reportedly reached out. People began talking about a future without oil. Then came the part where he had to prove it. In 1996, Meyer was taken to court by 2 investors who had bought into the tech and wanted results. The case didn't go well for Stanley. A physics professor who examined the buggy testified that it was running on nothing than conventional electrolysis, and the judge agreed. "If I'm wrong, then I'm a fraud, but if I'm right, then imagine what this means." He was ordered to pay back the $25,000 to investors. The media coverage quickly stopped, and by all accounts, the water car quietly vanished. But Stanley Meyer didn't. And just like Julian, Stanley kept telling people that he was being followed, that oil companies had tried to buy him out, and that there were people who didn't want his work getting out. Then some 2 years later in 1998, during a dinner meeting with 2 Belgian investors, Meyer allegedly took a sip of cranberry juice, stood up, ran out into the parking lot and collapsed. According to his brother, his final words before dying were, "They poisoned me." The coroner ruled it a brain aneurysm. No poison was found, no charges were filed, and the buggy, along with all of Meyer's research, allegedly disappeared. Was it fraud, a cover-up, or both? No one really knows, but more than 25 years later, people were still asking the same question. Did Stanley Meyer invent something real, or did he just say the right thing to the wrong people? A question we could also ask for the next inventor who once stated, "It works, that's the problem, they don't want it to work." This is what Paul Pantone reportedly said after demonstrating his invention on an old lawnmower engine no less, using Mountain Dew of all things as fuel. He faced many skeptics, but in the eyes of those who saw it, the Geet fuel processor really did run and it worked on virtually any liquid. Paul Pantone, born in Detroit in 1950, later settled in Oklahoma and Utah and became known as the inventor of the global environmental energy technology, or Geet for short. He claimed his device worked by using exhaust heat and pressure fluctuations to generate plasma, vaporizing liquids, gasoline, water, coffee, even urine, and ramping engine efficiency while cutting emissions by up to 90%. Geet will run on Mountain Dew, urine, even water. People don't believe it, but that's how it started. Pantone patented his invention and conducted public demonstrations at conferences, where engines modified with Geet supposedly showed significantly cleaner exhaust fumes and superior mileage. Publicity followed, supporters praised the potential, but skeptics accused it of being pseudoscience. Then instead of funding, Pantone was charged with securities fraud, accused of misleading investors about Geet's efficacy. In 2005, officials declared him legally incompetent and committed him to a Utah state mental hospital. They said I was delusional because none of this is in any science book. While institutionalized, Pantone alleged he was systematically abused, even tortured, pressured to surrender his patents, and even forced to cease public work on Geet. His supporters later confirmed that he was detained for over 3 years before release. His mental competency repeatedly questioned, yet somehow never validated independently. He was then released in May of 2009 after advocacy from his son and allies showed that he retained full cognitive capacity. Pantone returned to public life briefly, teaching Geet workshops, selling plans, and granting interviews. Then he quietly disappeared again. "I could have made millions, but they didn't want me to." This is what Pantone reportedly said about his decision not to sell his patents, and these claims allegedly continued until his death 6 years later in December of 2015. Whether his Geet engine worked or it was just a clever illusion, the outcome is pretty much the same as Stanley's, although certainly not the last. A motor that consumes no fuel and emits no fumes. Troy Reed, a machinist turned inventor from Tulsa, Oklahoma, claimed to have built something almost mythical. A magnetic motor that generated its own power, fuel-free, electricity-free, and emission-free. He called it the Reed magnetic motor. According to Troy, a pair of permanent magnets arranged on spinning discs and spring-loaded pistons could initiate and sustain motion, powering a generator and even a prototype car he named Surge. He claimed the car could run indefinitely and recharge itself as it rolled, reaching up to 85 miles per hour. It is powerful enough to turn a 7,000 watt generator, consume no fuel. By the mid-1990s, Reed had reportedly demonstrated working units to small audiences and negotiated licensing deals for production in the US and India. Major outlets including 2020, CNN, and Larry King were all said to have expressed interest in covering his invention. We dreamed of powering homes or electric vehicles without ever refilling a tank. Troy Reed also stated, production of Reed magnetic motor may begin by year's end, but then nothing happened. By the late 1990s, Troy disappeared from public view and his technology was never independently verified or mass-produced. No credible third-party demonstrations of the motor exist today, and his patents, if filed, were never published in major scientific archives. Some sources claim that his son continued to work on it quietly, but no substantial developments have ever surfaced publicly. Reed himself vanished from the conversation, and today his name is mainly cited in free energy forums and conspiracy discussions. It remains unclear unclear whether Troy Reed lost his investor interest, gave up, or was sidelined by forces beyond his control. Unsurprisingly, something our last inventor also lost. It ran on fumes and kept running for 96 hours. This was a claim made by Tom Ogle, raised in El Paso, Texas, a self-taught mechanic who believed he had unlocked incredible fuel efficiency by simply vaporizing gasoline, not using a carburetor or conventional pump. It began with a curious experiment. Ogle accidentally drilled a hole in a lawnmower tank, and instead of fixing it, he rerouted the fumes directly into the carburetor inlet, and the engine ran for 4 days without refueling. The fuel level stayed the same, but it just ran and ran. That concept carried over to his 1977 demo. He removed the carburetor and fuel pump from a 1970 Ford Galaxy, heated the gas tank to vaporize fuel, and reportedly drove 200 miles on just 2 gallons. Witnesses confirmed no hidden tanks, and the engine allegedly ran at highway speeds. By some accounts, Ogle claimed cars with 100 miles per gallon efficiency, and optimistically suggested lighter models could reach 400 to 900 mpg. We made 205 miles on less than 2 gallons. Once again, interest followed, and investor-backed company Advanced Fuel Systems even secured rights. Rumors then circulated that oil companies were offering big money for patents, which Ogle refused. Then legal disputes began, financing dried up, and interest somehow faded. By 1981, Ogle's life had spiraled. He survived a shooting, endured financial stress, and reportedly battled addiction. At age 26, he died of an apparent overdose. No suicide note, no conclusive cause, but some associates felt that something sinister might have happened. And just like other inventions in this video, Tom's vapor carburetor never reached production. The 1970 Ford Galaxy and technology that went with it somehow disappeared. Lawsuits continued over patent rights and investor loss, but once again no working model or independent replication has ever surfaced. 5 men, 5 breakthroughs, and not one of them made it to mass production. Some vanished, some died, and some just went quiet. So the question isn't did they lie, it's what if they didn't?